Mr. Darwin, what would you have to tell us about adaptability and change? That's our conversation, is about adaptability and change. And so it is a mystery that we can get in and mess around in and try to solve. Isn't science and perhaps religion about living in the questions? And when we find an answer, it lifts up more questions for us. Please come back and talk to us about what you've learned about how what you learned on the Beagle about species made you think again about breeding. Oh, wait just a minute. You really prefer to have your own slides, don't you? You really prefer to advance your own slides, don't you?
Sure.
Help a guy out, Sarah. 217 years old. He keeps up with technology. He's pretty good. All right, we got that? All right, there you go, forward. Yeah, okay, there you go. Tell us what you learned. Maybe there's something about some birds or...
For 217 years, technology is a challenge. Aha, I've mastered it. The slide we saw before about the different forms of animals that have been bred were bred by people who deliberately made choices about what sorts of animals they wanted to have. Darwin himself messed about with pigeons and bred different sorts of pigeons, but he could have just pointed to the slide.
Tell us what these finches tell us. Oh, many things here. Yeah.
Okay. The answer came to me and to the world through the finches on the Galapagos Island, because what I and my fellow scientists learned was that on each of the Galapagos Islands, where the Beagle moored, there were a particular species of finch, and each finch was different, and in particular, their beaks were different because they fed on different things. And so what this picture shows is the heavy beaks over here belong to birds which had evolved to crunch seeds. The pointy beaks up there belong to finches that had learned to probe in crevices for insects. And the grasping, this particular beak was adapted for by birds that finches that evolved to eat fruit. So the conclusion from that was that spontaneous changes in what we now know is the DNA, the substance of the genome, undergoes mutations. And on those rare occasions when the mutations are beneficial and provide another opportunity, increase the resilience or the adaptability of the species, there is evolution to originate, or that's the origin of the species, is natural selection that is profiting from these random mutations.
Boy, it sounds like you got everything exactly right about those finches.
I'm more than a little embarrassed. First of all, they're not Darwin's finches. That label came way later. And I didn't recognize that they were all finches. I mislabeled them. And worse than that, I did not even record which finch came from which island. Everybody makes mistakes, but fortunately, my friend John Gould, who was an ornithologist, came and saw all of the finches and explained to me exactly what it is I had discovered.
So Origin of the Species, that's kind of a catchy title. Did you use that in some way?
I believe I did. That's the name of one of the books.
Oh, thought we were getting to that. Okay.
Okay, but the question that you're about to ask me is, what is some of the most essential evidence, the crucial evidence that species evolved and one changes into another? And the answer to that question is the existence of transition forms, forms which have aspects of the old species. At the same time, they have features and characteristics of the new species. And when this happens, when transition forms can be found between major classes of animals, that is some of the most convincing evidence. I do need some water.
Okay. So we have Tiktaalik and Archaeopteryx.
Okay, let me.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm
gonna pick it up. I'm picking it up. Okay. So, three transitional forms. Tiktaalik, 375 million years ago, is a fish that stepped out onto the land. And to do that, it had not only gills, but lungs. It had fins, but in those fins were actual bones, much like the bones in our forearms. And fish can't move their heads independently. They have no neck. The head is connected to the body. This animal had a neck and could move its head around independently for the first time in the kingdom of animals. Archaeopteryx, 150 million years ago, is a flying dinosaur. You can't quite see, but in that beak, there are teeth. At the ends of its arm bones, which have become wings, there are still claws. And that tail is not feathers. It's an actual bony tail. So we have a transitional form from dinosaurs to birds. My favorite is Ardipithecus. We know from the bones of Ardipithecus that it walked upright. We can tell that from the structure of the hips. But look at the feet. You can't get that in a fry boot. Those toes are still made for tree climbing. A transitional form in our own lineage of hominins.
Wow, that's amazing. And then did you put this in a book?
Yeah. In Origin of Species.
I'm going to run your slides.
All right.
Wrong way. There we go.
Right. In Origin of Species, I've set forth the theory of evolution, of mutation and natural selection. But I was a little too scared to talk much about people.
Aha.
But then we have this evidence for human evolution. This is Australopithecus striding into Homo sapien. And here you see some of the forms of the hominin lineage. including Australopithecus, which some of you may know as Lucy, from 3 million years ago, one of the earliest hominin forms, and then Homo erectus preceded us by 1 million years, but set forth from Africa and colonized much of the rest of the world and invented fire while doing so. Heidelbergensis is our now thought to be most likely immediate predecessor. But we know for a fact that Neanderthals are a sister species with which we coexisted. And in fact, I believe that everybody in this room has about 4% of Neanderthal DNA inside each of you.
So you went on to study you published this, right? Talk about this.
Yes. So then I got the courage several years later to say that evolution, that we too evolved. And so The Descent of Man was subsequently published after Origin of Species.
So I know that you in particular are interested, you, Dr. Potigal, are interested in particular in facial expressions and how humans across the globe, humans through all time, have these facial expressions. Perhaps you could do a little experiment with this study group that you have right here.
Let's see. How about you all show me an expression of anger? Oh, come on, anger.
Really, anger.
There we go. How about you show me an expression of sadness? Oh, yes, it's all right. Now show me an expression of surprise. And finally, show me an expression of joy. Excellent. Well, as Darwin was extremely interested in these manifestations of emotion, and he was in communication, written communication with people all over the world, and asked them what they saw when they visited with different peoples and different cultures in different areas of the world. And so concluded that their expressions were common, the same expressions were common across everybody, across all samples of humanity. And Paul Ekman was a psychologist of some decades ago who went to study the Four people of New Guinea and found that he was interested in their expressions, but there were not words in their language like our emotion words. So he made up social situations and said, how would you look if you were about to fight, or your child had died, or you met friends? And you can see that they are comparable expressions to the ones that we have just expressed here. So there is a universality to this, which Darwin then pointed out in the similarity between the expressions of emotion-related expressions of animals and people. And that was one of his last works.
So how was all this received, Mr. Darwin? And were you the only one who was working on this at the time?
No. As a matter of fact, I was in contact with my friend and colleague, Alfred Russel Wallace, and I knew that he was thinking along the same lines. And as I was actually writing Origin of Species, he sent me a piece of his writing that had the same ideas. I was shocked and that we were so aligned. But being a good scientist, I then sponsored the presentation of his version of Origin of Species Natural Selection at the Linnaean Society, which was the major scientific society in England at the time. And in fact, it is true that in the history of science, multiple simultaneous discoveries are more common than not, because there is a logic to people's thinking and reasoning and development within science, so that one step follows another and logical conclusions can be drawn by several people working simultaneously.
So, yeah, it was not, we were received with some mockery.
Yes, this is a picture from a newspaper about Charles Darwin and his silly theory of evolution. But I did not really mind all that much, because I had support, understanding from my scientific colleagues. Gave me great courage.
So this is something, now, just with you, Mike, this is something that we've talked about quite a bit, that science, you've said this to me, and it was enlightening, that science for you has some of the qualities of religion, that as if we think of religion as connective tissue and having a language and so on and so on. Can you say what you mean by that? Because I think this is really key, maybe for many people here.
Yes. Rev Kelli and I have discussed this on many occasions, and it came to me as an active scientist, neuroscientist, that science existed, that I exist within science. It's a much larger enterprise than me. It existed before I came to be. It will continue to exist after I'm gone. And while I'm here, I have a strong sense of community with other like-minded researchers and others all around the world. And in that sense, I think science serves as and is an enterprise, much like religion, for the people who are involved in it. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. I think we're going to, I want to say that Mike will stick around after the service a little bit. If you've got some questions that you want to engage, he'll talk for a long time about it. It's a whole fresh audience. So if you've got particular questions on this, we'd love to have you connect. And I am thinking a lot about what it means for us to be human beings in this moment that requires a new way of thinking for us. How do we adapt to these current times? I dare not say I can't believe what is happening in the world. That stops me from being flexible and allowing it in and saying, yes, what is happening in the world is happening. I wish it weren't. Let me incorporate and then be adaptable and resilient to face the world together.